Well, I'm Matt Noblett. I'm an architect in Boston with a firm that's called Danish Architekten. So we're a firm that originally was started in Stuttgart in Germany and is sort of the descendant firm of Gunter Benish's office, which started in like I guess 1959 or so. Um, and so my partner Stefan Banish is Gunter Banish's son, and he started the office in around 1991, I guess, because we just had our 30th anniversary. And
Okay.
and so I worked for a bit in Stuttgart with him and with the office, and then came to Boston and kind of opened our office here 17 years ago, I think. So yeah, it's just sort of grown accidentally and organically through no plan whatsoever. It's a good question. I mean, for us, I think every project it has to be kind of unique in some way, right? Like, so I mean, clearly Hawaii is very it's a very special place. It's a place with a very unique climate. I mean, I've been going there for 25 years now to visit my wife Wendy's family and to be there, and of course to visit you. But so I think it offers so many really interesting opportunities to do things that we can't do, say, on the East Coast, the Northeast of the US or in Europe, where we have to deal with such a big range of climate conditions. A lot of them are kind of unpleasant. So we actually are solving problems of comfort for people through, I mean, obviously we try to work as passively as possible. So begin by placing the building and shaping the building in a way that it inherently performs in a very say positive way. But you do have, particularly I would say in the US, in the Northeast where we work here, that means you have to bring a lot of machines and you have to bring a lot of energy to the equation, and then we have to figure out ways to offset that energy because we really don't want to further burden the world with more carbon and more energy production. So I think, I mean, what's interesting for me about Hawaii is that I mean, I've been there at every time of the year. I think almost every month of the year at some point I've been there, and I've never been there when it wasn't pleasant, right? Like, I mean, there's moments, there's the hurricane season or something, but I mean, this is all well within what people can tolerate. And so the band, the kind of the climate band that you have to work with is really quite narrow in a sense, right? It's not 100 degrees of temperature change or 70% swing in humidity or something like that. It's kind of manageable. And then what's really great about that is, we have this kind of dream that through our architecture we can kind of reconnect people to buildings, really actually that the building and the users become kind of um one with each other in some ways, so that you don't fight the building, right? Like, you don't say, okay, I'm cold, I'm going to turn on the heat or the air conditioning, and then you have these winds blowing on you and you think, oh god, now I'm not cold anymore, but I'm uncomfortable because this air is blowing on me. And so so this, I think with some really simple techniques in a climate like Hawaii, you can begin to tune the building to the users in a very interesting way that they can, just go over and, change some jalousies or change a shade or open a door, something like that, right? Your apartment is a great example, right? If you have the front door open and the sliding doors open, you have cross ventilation. You can close one or the other, you can shut them a little bit more or a little bit less, and you can control that perfectly, right? You don't need any other devices for that. So the opportunity to do a super low energy and therefore a very high performing building, that's also really comfortable and supportive of the user is to me would be like such a fantastic and interesting opportunity. I mean, I would so I think that's where I would start. I mean, there's so many other issues in Hawaii, right? Of course, it's not just, I mean, it sounds almost sort of like trite to say, oh, how nice the climate is, but there's also the culture and the way people get together, the way they eat together, the way, I mean, my wife's family is very big, it feels when I'm there, like, I mean, I come from a very small family, right, from the north, where, you know, it's not, it's almost the opposite of what you feel there, which is, you know, in Hawaii, you get three people together and suddenly it's 15 people, and then it's 25 people. And so, you know, this kind of to me suggests that, like, this relationship of indoor space and outdoor space also has to do with maybe making these, you know, having these spaces be able to kind of swell and shrink to accommodate those kind of gatherings, right? Like, there's so many layers of this, that I find really
Wow.
super interesting. One of the things I think that, maybe this is more of a Honolulu problem maybe than a Hawaii general problem, but, you know, the public realm in Honolulu is not always looked after so carefully, right? I mean, you have a lot of areas with like big sidewalks and no shade, and so, you know, to me, how you could develop, particularly at the ground level, an approach to a building that, of course, you can make the inside of the building very interactive, and you can connect people and make it open and so forth. But I think it needs to do more and kind of extend to really begin to define a public realm in Honolulu that it exists in some areas. Like, I think, I mean, the best part of, for me, the best part of Honolulu to be in is Chinatown, right? Because that's where there's life on the street. And you sort of ask yourself, okay, why is that the case, right? And there, the sidewalks aren't as wide, the streets aren't as wide, and there's always something over your head, right? So you can get out of the sun, you feel protected. And there's a good mix because people live there, people work there, people shop there, there's water, and there's kind of, you know, all the things that kind of make a city really interesting. And then you can go like, what, 3 or 4 blocks to the east and be in like the financial district, and it's all gone, right? There's none of that there. There's just the big sidewalks, and then you go inside these glass boxes. So the question is, how do you transform it from the scale of a Chinatown to something, to a development scale, right? Like, this is a challenge, because I think you do have to then question some of the development prerogatives of say a pro forma, right? I mean, the cost of land in Hawaii, I assume the cost of land drives everything about a development project. So
Yeah.
once you acquire the land, then you have to put so many square feet and provide so many amenities and do, you know, X, Y, and Z, just to justify the cost of the land itself. And I think that's a challenge, but I think, our approach would always be to kind of question some of the presumed wisdom about what one of these buildings should be, right? Like, why does it need to be air conditioned? Why couldn't why couldn't an office building in downtown Honolulu have windows that open? Why couldn't it have spaces that cross ventilate? And, you know, of course, there's challenges to that. Obviously, you know, there's storms, and there can be, you know, swings in humidity or wind or something. So you have to kind of find solutions to allow the building to, you know, react to deal with those conditions. But I'm just amazed when those conditions probably represent 10% of the year, and people design for that 10%, right? Like, seal the building, don't provide any of these benefits, and just so that 10% of the year the thing works. It doesn't, to me, make any sense whatsoever. But